PKF, I'm your host, Preston. That's right. Today is a new car speccing and ordering day, and I'm going to take you through today the build and configuration for my Land Rover Defender V8 Carpathian edition. Just a couple videos ago, I did an on-road drive of my 2023 Land Rover Defender X Dynamic SE. In that video, I talked about a lot of the sort of variations and flavors of Defender, so I'll give you sort of a taste of what that looks like right now. It can get pretty confusing amongst all the different variations of Defender between 90, 110, 130. Then you see all the respective trim levels for each wheelbase here. This is quite a selection. There's the X Dynamic SE right there. The video is all about the Defender V8 Carpathian edition. I'm going to get into that, talk to you about sort of the specifics of this vehicle, talk to you about why I went with it, and hopefully a little bit about why I'm so passionate about these Defenders. This is going to be my fourth new Defender now, actually. Let's go ahead and get into the build. I've kind of looked across YouTube. Nobody really has much to say about this vehicle. I know there's a few on-road drive videos from journalists both here in the UK and Europe, but there's really not much explanation or experience with the V8, at least ownership-wise, on YouTube. So I'm excited to sort of talk to you about the build that I'm going with, as well as share with you my initial on-road impressions, which should be coming in just about 4 weeks or so. The vehicle is actually ordered and spec'd up, but I just want to kind of show all you what I went with. So it's actually been built and it is awaiting shipment at the port as we speak. So as you can see, going into the configurator here, obviously the first thing that you see is that I went with the 110. You can get the 90 and the 110 in the V8, the 90 being the 2-door, the 110 being the 4-door. So this is really directly aimed at the likes of the Mercedes G63, obviously, and there really isn't much else in the class outside of that. I suppose you have to mention the Wrangler 392, which I currently have in the garage. That is a much less luxury-oriented vehicle than the Defender is, and the G-Wagon. This is sort of a unique prospect in its class. You can see sort of the starting price here is around $120,000 for your G63. You're going to be paying the starting price now of 23 is $179,000 with no options. So the value actually starts to make a lot more sense when you're considering sort of the luxury SUV off-road segment blended with that utility for everyday driving. This is sort of a unique prospect, the Defender, at the moment, amongst sort of really all of its iterations, actually, whether it be the P400 V8 4-cylinder, even though I think there's going to be a plug-in hybrid and an fully electric version coming out as well. The Carpathian edition gives you, it's basically all the same internals as the other Defender 110 V8, but the Carpathian edition gives you this unique from factory satin wrap. It's finished in Carpathian gray metallic, and then there is a satin wrap or protection film placed over the gloss Carpathian gray, which is a pretty interesting touch from factory. And I can't remember the exact brand, whether it's Expel or Avery or 3M, but it is a self-healing product. So if you have sort of small rocks chipping at the wrap, it self-heals and sort of covers up the wound, if you will, as you're driving along, and it self-repairs, which is a pretty interesting product. Let's look at the starting price between the Carpathian and the regular V8. So you can see the Carpathian's about $118,400 here for the 110. Yeah, so it's about a $7,000 difference. So you're really only paying for the wrap, as I said, dynamically, and performance-wise, really no different. You see, you get the heated and cooled seats. They also come standard on V8s. I'm not really sure why they have that stand out there, but the unique thing about the Carpathian too, it is a limited run model. At least it's supposed to be, but it has a unique VIN plate where it says Carpathian edition next to the VIN number. They're not necessarily individually numbered per se, but Land Rover says that it's a much rarer V8 variant than just the regular Defender V8. So that's part of the reason why I opted for it, and I like the sort of stealthiness and bold look that satin wrap gives you. I think it has a lot of road presence and looks absolutely killer. Country pack here, this gives you mud flaps, sort of a cargo partition. Portable rinse system was pretty funny. You got a scuff plate on the back. I can add that. I didn't add this to mine, but I can show you what that does. Sort of these plastic wide arch extensions. I had this on my 2020 Defender P400 HSE, and I think it sort of distracts a little bit on the V8. I'm not really sure that it fits. The plastic doesn't really look as premium on this particular trim level, so I did not opt for that. And also, I figured just with part shortages and things, if I would have opted for the country pack and went with this, I feel like these sort of bits and bobs here might have been, you know, for example, if the cargo space partition is missing as part of the package, the vehicle could be delayed months on end, weeks on end, whatever. So I just went ahead and skipped it. So going on, so you have 3 different wheel choices. You can do 22s in the satin gray, which sort of matches the wrap. I thought about doing that. I actually saw one today in my dealer that it was ordered. Guy was picking it up in a couple of days. I think that looks really good. I actually ended up going with the 22-inch black wheels. I just like the sort of stealthiness of that. I like gloss black wheels. You can actually get 20-inch wheels as well, and this gives you quote-unquote off-road tires. They're not mud terrains. They're more like an all-terrain type of tread, so they're still pretty good for use on road for freeway driving. So they're a lot louder, and they're 20 inches in diameter, as you can see, as opposed to the 22s. But for this particular vehicle, I went with the black 22s. I just think they look really good. And of course, I went with the body colored spare wheel cover. I just think that adds a really unique flavor to the Defender V8. I think it looks great. You can see that it's wrapped in the satin Carpathian gray, just as the rest of the Defender's finish in. So I think it looks awesome. So obviously the Defender V8 bears the VA name. This particular Defender has the 5-liter supercharged V8 that I've talked about and praised in a lot of the other JLR products I've had. I had the Range Rover Sport SVR, which in that particular vehicle made 575 horsepower. An F-Pace SVR as well made 550 horsepower. And a Sport Supercharged Dynamic, I think it was 518 in that vehicle, if I remember correctly. And in this Defender V8, it's making the 518. So it's making as much as the Sport Supercharged did. Pre-2023. 2023 has the new model designation, which the V8 version uses the 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8 unit from BMW. So unfortunately, that 5-liter supercharged engine that we've all know and have come to love is going out the door. So this is actually supposedly the last vehicle that's getting that 5-liter supercharged V8. So that was one of the main reasons I went with that I wanted to get that Defender V8 while I still could. So moving on to the interior here. There are 2 Windsor leather choices here. You can see you can have ebony, Windsor leather here. Sheer black seat. Nothing too exciting. And unfortunately, when I ordered this vehicle, I'll get into it in a second, but I actually went with the tan. Here's the vintage tan, which I think look absolutely killer. This is what I ordered when I placed the order for the vehicle 2 or 3, actually 4 months ago now. And I was really excited to get that vintage tan. I had it on my Sport SVR. But unfortunately, I heard from the dealer the other day that there's a supply constraint, unfortunately, on a vintage tan, because I guess my sales guy actually told me that this extended leather trim piece here around the dash and sort of around the infotainment unit, they have a constraint on this piece here, so they can't do the vintage tan interior right now, unfortunately, if you go and order a Defender V8, which is pretty upsetting. And my backup plan was to get this version of the ebony leather, which sort of gives you this Alcantara sort of microfiber suede here in the center of the seat. And unfortunately, the supply constraint ran to that as well. So apparently, for one reason or another, you're forced into getting just the regular old plain black leather, which is fine. I mean, it's obviously a high quality leather. It's Windsor leather, as you can see, which is the same material that you get on a full-size Range Rover, your higher end sort of sport supercharged, whether like Autobiography, for example. You still have that sort of suede. You have a unique suede Alcantara line steering wheel there. That's unique to the V8, and you cannot get that in another Defender trim, so that's a little unique touch. And that Alcantara wrap steering wheel, this is the only Defender. You get aluminum paddle shifters here. Pretty large. They feel really good to the touch. I drove a pre-owned, certified pre-owned unit about 2 or 3 months ago now when I went to the dealer to order my new Defender, and they felt really good. It rips off just pretty nicely. This is the 8-speed ZF that I've sort of come to love and know in the JLR products. It works really well, and I like it a lot coupled in my P400. I know it's great with this V8 unit as well. Not much to talk about in terms of options on the Defender V8. They come pretty loaded. For some reason, you can actually opt for the analog dial. I don't really know why you'd want that. I think that the TFT display is the way to go. Obviously, it requires more chips, but one of the things to note about JLR, which is, I think, especially important in this day and age, is the fact that they, at least with my dealer, they do not take your order slot unless they actually have the ability to source all of the parts at once and build the particular unit. So when I was told that my slot came in for the Defender V8, it meant that basically every part was in order to build it, at least supposedly, until I heard about the shortage with the vintage tan and that constraint. That came up later, though, of course. That notwithstanding, all of the chips, all the microchips sourced for your particular unit, so you're not going to run into a situation where, say, your chassis is produced and it's sitting there waiting to be picked up and shipped off to the cargo ship, and you're missing a critical microchip, for example. Land Rover does not roll that right way, which is pretty cool. Now, I had some issues a couple months ago. I was trying to get a Gen 3 Ford Raptor, and the truck was shown on the tracker as built, but unfortunately it was waiting for a microchip, so it's sitting there still uncompleted 4 or 5 months later after I was going to get it, which is pretty much a logistical nightmare. I went with this. This just sort of gives you the rubber protection mat in the back here in the trunk, and also gives you first and second row deep mats, just for all the snow and salt and garbage. Went with the classic mud flaps. I think this is a must. Sort of finishes off the Defender nicely. I think it gives it a sort of rugged utilitarian look. I think it looks great. I think you have to have the mud flaps coupled with the wheel cover. I think it looks really good. Finishes off nicely. 2023 Land Rover Defender V8 110 Carpathian Edition. There are not really that many options because it comes pretty well equipped, pretty loaded. We could talk for hours about other trims of the Defender, some of the lower trims, and they can get really interesting and actually confusing sort of in the way that you can spec them depending on which trim level you go with. Whether you can really get a sort of a base model up there quite a way past sort of the mid-level and upper-level trims if you really load them up with interesting paints and wheels and other options. The main highlights, I got what did I add to the Carpathian? So I added the wheel cover here, as you can see, which is also finished in the Carpathian satin gray, 22-inch black wheels, exterior protection pack, aka mud flaps there, finish it off. As I said, I was sort of pigeonholed into that black Windsor leather. I would like the vintage tan, but there's that constraint that came up afterwards, unfortunately, which is kind of a big letdown, but it is what it is. We'll make do with it. I'm actually talking with the dealer right now. I actually forgot to mention that they're going to order me a second one with the tan interior because that was sort of a roadblock that we didn't anticipate, and I really wanted that to finish it off nicely. So I'll probably take delivery of this one. Well, not probably. I will take delivery of this one and trade it in for my tan Carpathian V8 when that comes in, whenever that slot comes in. 121,000. Really not much different from the base price besides those little options here and there. As I said at the beginning of the video, the car is built. It was built, I believe, on November 17th, so 2 or 3 weeks ago now. So just waiting to be picked up and put on the cargo ship for its journey over to the US. So tentatively the delivery is set for January 6th, 2023. So which about, at the time of filming this video, is about 4 weeks from now. So I'm very excited to get my V8 Carpathian and share with you also my initial driving impressions. So look forward to that on the channel. So thanks a lot for tuning into the PKF. I'm your host, Preston. If you have any other questions or whether you're thinking about ordering one or whatnot, just give me a shout in the comments. I'd be happy to chat all things Defender. So thank you very much for watching the PKF. I'm your host, Preston. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.